to you, and welcome to the Friday Five here on the Agent Survival Guide podcast. This is our weekly list of 5 things you should know about. I'm your host, Sarah Ruppel, and today is Friday, March 13th. Coming in at number 5, we've got 2 quick headlines for you that pretty much speak for themselves. Moltbook AI has been acquired by Facebook, which means that the founders of the company have been acquired, and Moltbook will probably be left to, well, molt. Interesting, given that most headlines initially covering Moltbook called it Facebook for AI. Last week, Apple announced a lot of new hardware: the iPhone 17e, an M4 iPad Air, M5 MacBooks, 2 new studio displays, and the brand new entry-level MacBook Neo that has me contemplating actually buying a laptop. Only problem is, just like my contemplation on which iPad should I buy, I find myself asking the very same question, just now in laptop form. And the rumors this week of a potential MacBook Ultra featuring a touchscreen are really not helping. Number 4, an interesting study on AI has revealed that just because we can use AI doesn't always mean that we should. And while most of the conversations surrounding AI initially had to do with AI replacing human jobs, that's not what this study focuses on. Rather, this study found that pushing our mental faculties beyond their natural capacity can cause something called brain fry. At least, that's what's happening when high performers start using AI. The study reported workers feeling, quote, mental fatigue that results from excessive use of, interaction with, and or oversight of AI tools beyond one's cognitive capacity, end quote. I'm not going to do a deep dive into the semantics of the study, even though they are fascinating. What I found most interesting was the explanation of the 2 different concepts of how we handle knowledge, especially with being inundated by information on a regular basis. When it comes to processing information in our brain, we're essentially balancing 2 processes: offloading and scaffolding. Offloading happens when we let someone else do the thinking. Scaffolding occurs when we use external sources to build our own thinking. And these 2 processes are very important when it comes to critical thinking. Because the more we exercise our ability to think critically, the more we are building the foundation of our knowledge. So not giving ourselves the chance to think critically on a regular basis or overexerting that muscle, well, it can have an effect on the way we think, hence brain fry. Super interesting study with some takeaways, not just on how AI affects us, but also other media we treat similarly. We will have the link to the study and a few articles with takeaways in our episode notes. Moving on to number 3. Earlier this week, we received reports that CMS has notified Medicare plans that they are sending out new Medicare beneficiary identifiers to 1.3 million individuals. The new cards will be mailed out during the month of March with an effective date in April 2026. And if this sounds a little familiar, something similar happened back in 2023 that led to new MBIs being assigned and distributed at the end of 2024. And to our knowledge, this is not just a one carrier issue. It's likely that multiple carriers have been affected. The last time there was a large MBI reassignment, it was because of a data breach. However, this time around, CMS has not yet given a reason. We will certainly keep you informed if we get an update as to a reason. Regardless of why this is happening, though, it's important to communicate with your clients to let them know what to expect. CMS will reach out to those affected, mail them a new card complete with instructions on the next steps they should take. in the past, those steps have included informing providers of the new Medicare number and destroying the old Medicare card. Just want to keep this on your radar because it can be a confusing and annoying process for your client. Also, keep in mind that for any new enrollment applications, your client will need to use their new Medicare Beneficiary Identifier. Applications submitted with the old number will face delays and eventually be returned incomplete. Typically, MBI reassignment, because of a data breach, will include information and potentially a limited time offer for complimentary credit monitoring. And if that's not included, remember that under federal law, U.S. citizens can request a free credit report from Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion once every 12 months. Not a situation I would wish on anyone, but hopefully the heads up and additional information will make your clients feel more prepared if they do get a letter from CMS in the mail. Number 2. Last week, we mentioned that we had some updated numbers for Medicare Part D enrollment. KFF recently published their analysis on February 2026 data and how it compares to 2025. So let's get into that. First up, the overall enrollment numbers on Medicare Part D. We have 56.1 million people enrolled in Medicare Part D. 56% of those enrollees have a Medicare Advantage Part D plan, accounting for about 31.3 million of our total Part D enrollees. 44% of Medicare Part D enrollees have a standalone PDP, accounting for the other roughly 24.9 million enrollments. Now, breaking that enrollment down further into the group and individual categories, we'll start out with the individual market, since that's where Ritter Insurance Marketing, the FMO that powers this podcast, operates. Individual MAPD plan enrollment came in at 28.6 million in February 2026, an increase of about 1 million enrollees from the year prior. Enrollment for individual prescription drug plans was reported at 18.6 million, up from 2025 numbers by about 500,000 enrollees. And just in case you were wondering, back in 2025, the average Medicare beneficiary had 14 standalone PDP options to choose from. In 2026, the number of PDP options available dropped to 11 choices for the average Medicare beneficiary. Group enrollments had some interesting shifts, a decrease of 1.2 million enrollments in Medicare Advantage Part D plans on the group side, but then a 1.2 million enrollment increase for standalone Part D plans. KFF suggested that this change was likely due to group plans moving around enrollments to take advantage of the Part D premium stabilization demonstration. Quote, participation in the demonstration in 2026 provides a $10 per member per month premium subsidy, end quote. $10 can do quite a bit to offset the per month per member premium payment on a Part D plan, and that's also an annual savings of $120. The carriers that saw the most growth from 2025 to 2026 in the PDP space, Humana, Centene, and United Health Group in that order. Humana saw a 1.38% increase in enrollments. Centene grew by 0.89 million enrollees, and United Health Group grew their PDP base by 0.21 million enrollees. You can dig into these numbers further with the link to that KFF analysis in our episode notes. And now for our top story this week, coming in at number 1. Back in January, we reported on the balance model, and we mentioned that CMS had plans for a new Medicare GLP-1 payment demonstration that would launch in July 2026 and carry Medicare beneficiaries over to the start of 2027 when balance officially launches. Last week, CMS published a memo with a few frequently asked questions about the short-term demonstration that they are calling the Medicare GLP-1 Bridge. We mentioned in our initial coverage of that announcement that pricing would be set at $50 per month for eligible Medicare beneficiaries. The key word there is eligible, because not everyone will be able to access their GLP-1 through the bridge payment demonstration, despite the fact that it is available in all states and territories. So let's talk about the requirements for beneficiaries to take advantage of that savings. First things first, an individual must be enrolled in an eligible Medicare Part D plan. That includes standalone prescription drug plans, Medicare Advantage prescription drug plans, those enrolled in a special needs plan with Part D, dual eligible individuals enrolled in those aforementioned Part D plans, and then also Part D beneficiaries in employer or union group waiver plans, and Part D beneficiaries in the limited income newly eligible transition program. Eligible Part D beneficiaries must also have a prior authorization request, a prescription for an eligible GLP-1, and meet the clinical criteria. As of right now, that criteria includes a diagnosis of obesity or on the higher end of the overweight spectrum. Those who are using a GLP-1 for weight management can request an exception to be included in the GLP-1 bridge demonstration. But as of right now, that use case is not supported by the demonstration. Couple other important things to know. Participating drugs in the Medicare GLP-1 bridge include the Wegovy injection, Wegovy tablets, and Zepbound. Also, for beneficiaries, participation is open to eligible Part D beneficiaries depending on the criteria we just mentioned. The balance model does require Part D sponsors to opt in. That means there could be the possibility of a beneficiary gaining access to GLP-1 medication through the bridge demonstration and then not having access come January 1, 2027 if their Part D plan sponsor chooses not to participate in balance. Also, important to know, and we've mentioned this before in previous episodes, the $50 monthly copay Medicare beneficiaries pay through the Medicare GLP-1 bridge does not count toward their Part D deductible or the $2,100 true out-of-pocket cost limit for 2026. The bridge demonstration exists outside of the Part D program, other than the fact that participants must be Part D beneficiaries. Also important to remember, some Medicare beneficiaries using GLP-1s for currently covered purposes or via reduced cost-sharing methods will not be eligible for the Medicare GLP-1 bridge. Medicare beneficiaries using GLP-1s for sleep apnea, type 2 diabetes, or other indications covered by Medicare will not be eligible for savings under the bridge demonstration. And that's even if what they pay for their Medicare covered conditions is more than the $50 copay an individual would pay through the bridge program to cover treatment of obesity. Similar story with Medicare beneficiaries with a Part D low-income subsidy. If they already qualify for reduced cost sharing, they cannot then apply that savings to GLP-1 medications through the Medicare GLP-1 bridge demonstration. Figuring out what's best for your client is going to be a combination of a few things. Does the math make sense? How will things change if their Part D plan does not opt into balance? And then how would a Part D switch affect their current costs and coverage? Now, if you're wondering what the prior authorization process looks like for the Medicare GLP-1 bridge, CMS did mention in the memo that they plan to publish those processes in spring 2026. So still to be determined there, but you can get a head start on reading through the rest of that memo We have it linked in the episode notes, and we will be keeping an eye out for updates. But for now, like I said, it's a good idea to get the foundation on this demonstration. Also, in the notes, you will find links to the other resources we mentioned throughout this episode. So be sure to check them out. And if you have questions, you can send them our way at asgpodcast@ritterim.com. And that'll do it for this week. I hope you have a great weekend. Stay healthy and stay safe out there, and we will see you next week. The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was written and produced by me, Sarah Ruppel. Script editing and fact check by Emily Ryan. Podcast design by Urban Rivera. Like what you hear? Follow along with our show wherever you get your podcasts.